not safe. The fire may not be directly impacting their structure or property, but there are huge hazards out there.
You can't see anything. It's just dark. It's smoke. You can't breathe.
It makes you think a lot different about what you think courage is.
The news at 6 starts right now. Good Monday. Thanks for joining us. I'm Janelle Wang.
And I'm Raj Mathai. For many communities, it is not getting any better. We do have some key updates now from the fire lines. We also have Jessica Aguirre with us. Jess.
Raj and Janelle, what happens when a historic fire season collides with an historic pandemic? How do you keep tens of thousands of people evacuated from their homes in shelters from catching COVID-19? Coming up, we're going to tell you about all the new safety protocols at local shelters.
It's very complicated. Okay, thank you, Jessica. Well, we start with our trio of fires burning across the Bay Area. The 3 complex fires, they're burning in the North, East, and South Bays, as well as South San Mateo County. NBC Bay Area Sky Ranger is over the CZU fire right now. You can see it's still generating so much smoke. It's flying just south of La Honda right now. The CZU fire is burning in Santa Cruz and San Mateo counties. It's currently burned about 78,000 acres and containment at 13%.
Just doesn't seem to be slowing down, Janelle. Just moments ago, we saw this widespread destruction. This is near Big Basin in Santa Cruz County, and this is really what it looks like for many of our mountain communities. Look down below. You can see those cars and those homes charred and destroyed. So far, 6 people have died across our region. Over the weekend, that CZU fire claimed the life of a 70-year-old man near Davenport. There is some good news on this Monday evening. As of right now, the red flag warning for the Bay Area has been lifted. That means no more dangerous fire weather is in the immediate forecast. Also, evacuation orders are beginning to scale back. In Santa Clara County, some neighborhood areas have been downgraded from evacuation orders to evacuation warnings. More on that in just a minute. Now, our team is on the ground across the region, covering the flames, covering all the widespread damage and the weather conditions.
Okay, CAL FIRE is starting their nightly press conference. Let's listen in on the CZU fire. Let's listen in to what they have to say. They have an update.
Chief for CAL FIRE here in the San Mateo Santa Cruz unit. As always, if you could just mute your telephones, please take any conversations outside the press briefing area and keep your masks on at all times. Just wanted to bring everybody up to speed after the weather came through yesterday and we found ourselves here getting wet last night. Over the course of the evening across California, the CAL FIRE confirmed that there were over 300 lightning strikes in the state overall. 10 of those caused new fires, or 10 new fires occurred overnight, and none of those fires occurred in the San Mateo Santa Cruz unit. So no lightning caused fires over the last 24 hours. Which, if you remember when we were standing here 24 hours ago, we were all highly concerned about with the red flag conditions. With that, on the CZU lightning complex, this evening we're up to 78,684 acres. Obviously, we get more specific on the numbers, the more we're able to ground truth it with people on the ground, and we are confirming 78,684 acres this evening. We remain at 13% contained. And have over 25,000 structures that still remain threatened due to the fire. We also can confirm this evening that 276 structures have been destroyed. That is both in San Mateo and Santa Cruz County. A large majority of those structures are in Santa Cruz County, and obviously that information will get down to the specifics as it gets released to each EOC at the county level. And finally, some even better news. We're up to 1,609 firefighters, personnel assigned to this incident. Obviously, every number of firefighters that comes on the line has a direct correlation to the percent increase in containment that we can gain. So that's a welcome development for us. With that, I'm going to pass it off for an operational overview from CAL FIRE IMT 3 Ops Section Chief Mark Brunton.
Good evening. So today, with the weather that we had, really led us to get in there and do a lot of good work. We had a lot of progress in the fire today. With the clear air, we were able to fly a lot more aircraft. I'll address that here shortly. And on the ground, again, as Chief Cox said, that we brought in more resources, and we were able to get more heavy equipment, the bulldozers and so forth, that are going to help us construct those lines. So a lot of good work going on. Predominantly up in the north zone. We're having good progress with our line construction continuing. The fire still is backing into Lomar and Butano, but again, it's pretty much creeping. We are monitoring that. It's not making any sort of threat to those communities, but it is still advancing, albeit slowly. There is a haul road in Division Gulf and Kilo that I've been talking about. That line's been improved. The fire is creeping down into that. It's holding, which is great because that is keeping fire from making any sort of advancement into potentially Santa Clara County. So that's looking really good. We're very happy with the results there. As we're looking at the Highway 9 corridor, continued work along that corridor. Again, as I've said before, difficult terrain to work in, very steep terrain, heavy fuels. Not the most ideal area to put our control lines like we typically do, but it is, we're making do with it. We're making it work, and it is holding in most all locations. In the state park down below Ben Lomond, continued work in there. That's going to be one of our challenge points, one of those areas that's going to be a lot of work, a lot of planning, but we are making advancements there throughout. The south skin looking really good. Our containment line, our primary or secondary line on that south part of the fire is solid. The area that we burned in yesterday, fantastic. It's holding. It's doing what we want. Any fire that is burned down to that is either self-mitigated, meaning extinguished, or it is holding on that line, which is exactly what we wanted to do. So it really, really minimizes that threat to Santa Cruz and the UC campus. So it's looking really good. Very happy with those results. In Bonnie Doon, continued work around those structures. Again, painstaking work. A lot of structures out there, a lot of heavy fuels, still some fire creeping throughout that. But again, that's a lot of work just digging in and getting after it and taking care of business. We did a small burn operation along Empire Grade Road to Martin Road that kind of puts in a nice control line for us. So it keeps spread going to the west and affecting more homes. So that's a good control line we did to button that little bit up. And then as far as our air program, didn't fly any of the fixed wing air tankers on it. Didn't really have a need for that. But what was critical is the use of our helicopters. We have 6 water dropping helicopters assigned to this incident. And today was the best day yet. We were able to drop 200,000. That's 200,000 gallons throughout the day in fire suppression activities with our helicopters. So with our ground troops, our aerial Air Force going. Great day and a lot of good work out there and a lot of advancement work moving forward. With the weather we're expecting, I think we're going to have more days like this and hopefully get us closer to the end of suppressing this fire.
Speaking next from the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office is Chief Deputy Chris Clark.
Okay, you've been listening into a CAL FIRE daily briefing. I got to say, in the last week, we've been doing this on a nightly basis. That's the most encouraging news we've received so far. Bottom line, a lot of progress today, says CAL FIRE. They're minimizing the threats to a lot of communities in San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, and the UCSC campus, the UC Santa Cruz campus. A few figures for you. It is now 13% contained. However, 25,000 structures are still under a threat as of this hour. Now, we are streaming the rest of that news conference on our website at NBCBayArea.com. Janelle.
Yeah, Rogers fire crews make progress on the CZU fire. They are also facing criticism. Some who live in the Bonnie Doon area say CAL FIRE did not do enough to save homes, and now they're taking matters into their own hands. NBC Bay Area's Marianne Favreau is live in the Santa Cruz Mountains with more on their frustrations. Marianne.
Well, Janelle, the fire is burning just up this road, which is why you see the blockade here behind me. Today, we went into Bonnie Doon and talked to a lot of people who said that they felt that CAL FIRE left them to fend for themselves. Home after home in Bonnie Doon destroyed. But today, some who live here are questioning if some of the houses could have been saved by CAL FIRE.
I just think there's failure after failure, and my friends down the road didn't need to lose their homes.
Jemison Patori chose not to leave and was able to save her own home. Now she's keeping a close eye on flare-ups. She's frustrated that fire crews told her they had no water, yet she says they refused to tie in to a working hydrant on her property. George Sam has the same complaint. He says fire crews refused to hook up to this hydrant.
That fire hydrant has 15,000 gallons of water against it, right? They would not hook up to it.
But Tori says neighbors decided to fend for themselves, so they turned pickup trucks into water trucks as they work to protect homes.
And they're driving around with pickup trucks, shovels, and garden hose.
We reached out to Cal Fire to ask why crews didn't use home hydrants. The agency says hand crews are not trained to do water fights and may not have had the hoses or adjusters to tap into home hydrants. Also, Cal Fire leaders say the first night they only had 15 engines and were outgunned by Mother Nature. So they were forced to triage their response in order to save the most homes. I want to point out another concern. You see this sign behind me. It says looters go home. Looting has been a big problem at this fire. A lot of people coming in from Alameda County and other areas and stealing from people who had to evacuate. Now, the Sheriff's Department says they are cracking down on these looters, and so far they have arrested more than 8 people. Reporting live in Santa Cruz County, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
Marianne, thank you. And this is really why our air quality is so unhealthy. Look at all the smoke. Our Sky Ranger at the CZU fire about 30 minutes ago. This is over San Gregorio, so on the San Mateo County side, just north of Pescadero. You can see that haze and that smoke, and really just multiply this by 3 major other fire zones across our region, and that's the smoke that we're seeing and breathing. Let's go to the North Bay now. This video is from Lake County overnight. In nearby Sonoma County, firefighters did get a break. The entire town of Healdsburg was under an evacuation warning, but the lightning strikes and high winds that were predicted did not materialize, thankfully. NBC Bay Area's Tom Jensen joins us now in Healdsburg with the very latest. And Tom, Healdsburg is a gem of Sonoma County. What do you have there?
Isn't it? It's a beautiful town, and that evacuation warning is still in place, including in the downtown, where we are seeing the winds to start to pick up a little bit late this afternoon, bracing for more winds and possibly lightning, hoping that doesn't happen. Like last night, they made progress, and they did get more resources, like the fire officials were talking about in the South Bay fires just a few minutes ago, and they were able to make a lot of progress with air support, and many evacuees returning home to neighborhoods now that the threat there has decreased. Fires within the LNU complex continue to race around inside fire lines. One of the largest already burned more than 50,000 acres outside the town of Healdsburg. Firefighters able to keep the flames from reaching the downtown, but they're still evaluating losses along many roads winding through the hills between Healdsburg and Geyserville.
A lot of my friends have lost their childhood homes, and we're grateful for what we still have.
Jennifer Torres grew up in Healdsburg and had to evacuate her family from their Geyserville home this weekend.
Do you believe fire?
The whole family also thankful for the men and women on the front lines who saved their home from the Walbridge fire.
We're talking about public safety and being very grateful for our firefighters and our EMS.
But they also know this fire is far from contained, and they're following the latest warnings from the daily fire briefings.
The size and complexity of this fire is not one that we've seen in times past.
Praying for another good night on the fire lines outside Healdsburg. Praying her hometown survives what has become one of the largest fires in the state's history in just 6 days.
I can't even imagine what it would be like. It would just be devastating.
Fire officials urging people to keep an eye on those briefings and the winds. The evacuation orders change just as quickly as the winds do, and they're urging people to get out when those orders do come in, or even before they come in if they feel like they're in danger. We're live in Healdsburg. Tom Jensen, NBC Bay Area News.
Good information, Tom. So many of us are on just pins and needles here. As the fires move, so do the evacuation lines. Let's bring in Chris Kimura, who has the newest maps. And Chris, what are you seeing? I even got a couple of alerts on my phone last night. Places on the peninsula, Palo Alto Hills, Los Altos Hills, with the fire evacuation warning. And then just about 5 minutes ago, CAL FIRE says they're making great progress to avoid those communities in Santa Clara County.
Exactly. This is the line you're talking about right here in yellow. So this is the CZU fire, and we can see the SCU fire over here. Your waypoints here, Santa Cruz, down here, Scotts Valley, up to the north. So here's Portola Road, Skyline Boulevard along this stretch, and then Summit Road along here. So this is the boundary. This is the pins and needles. This is where you got to wonder what's going to happen over the next who knows how many days. Down to the southwest, though, this is in red. These are the evacuation orders. This dark line right here, that's the perimeter of the fire event. So that's where it's already burned so far. Let me take you up to the north where we do have some new information. This is where Tom Jensen was just talking about Healdsburg. That's right here on this map. You can see a large yellow U shape, essentially, kind of crooked U. Those are the evacuation warnings in Sonoma County. The good news is this section over here was previously an evacuation order. That earlier today was reduced down to an evacuation warning. That's a positive step in the right direction. Let me take you to the SCU fire. And so here we have new information in the past hour or so, which is positive for the Morgan Hill area. This area right in here in yellow. So we're talking about this is south of Sunnyvale and San Jose, just to the north of Gilroy, Morgan Hill. This space here just to the east of US 101 had previously been an evacuation order. Now it's been reduced down to an evacuation warning. Let's just reiterate what an evacuation warning is. A warning means you need to be careful about what's happening. Remain mindful, remain alert as to what's happening. But also it means if you have pets, if you have livestock, or if you have trouble evacuating your home, it's best that you not return home. It is possible that the people who were under the previous evacuation order, which is an order to leave, it's possible they could return home. Though CAL FIRE is advising people that it's entirely possible you'll go home and you still won't have utilities. So try to make that decision very carefully. As you approach your neighborhood, there should be a checkpoint. You should be able to check in with a law enforcement officer to tell you about what's happening in your neighborhood. So again, this is the SCU fire down here. This is the CZU fire right here. Let me take you back up to the north for one last moment, because I want to show you what you can see from space, essentially. So the red spots here are indicators of hotspots and fires that are occurring in the state throughout the day today. And so here are your waypoints. We have Napa, we have Fairfield, Vacaville, Petaluma, and look at all of these red spots up toward Clear Lake. So you can understand why the evacuation warnings and the evacuation orders cover such a huge swath of our area, because we have so many red spots on the map right here. And then down to the south, here's the CZU fire on the north end right here. So here's San Mateo, Redwood City, San Jose. So you can see the red spots from the CZU fire. And then over to the east, look at all of the red spots in the SCU fire. So your waypoints here, Fremont, Livermore, San Jose, down to the south, Gilroy and Morgan Hill. So all those red spots are a reason for us to remain absolutely alert and vigilant with all of this. Janelle?
Okay, thanks so much, Chris. Well, evacuations, of course, always difficult, but now you have to add an unprecedented complication, COVID-19. The state trying to manage how to house potentially thousands of evacuees without exposing them to the coronavirus. Jessica Geary has been looking into the new evacuation protocols. What can you tell us, Jessica?
Well, Janelle, the short answer to this is that you don't crowd people. That's what the governor is talking about. He says this COVID versus fire issue really has to follow the same protocols that we're doing on our new normal life, as wearing masks, having social distancing, and really trying to keep all those things together. So Governor Newsom says there's 17 shelters up and running, and that the facilities have rules in place. No congregating, cots 10 feet apart, families actually in tents inside buildings so they can just stay to themselves. Air purifiers being provided by Bay Area companies, and most important, health screenings that the governor himself went through this weekend.
Yesterday down in Santa Cruz at a community college facility that was being managed by the local Red Cross. There was a nurse there that screened me. She didn't just take my temperature, but she also asked me a series of questions. Before I could go into the actual shelter, there was another assessment that was done. There were specific protocols on physical distancing. There was a requirement that I had a mask, and there was instructions around social distancing that was provided before I even got to tour the facility.
So in addition to the shelters, the governor says they also are housing people in 31 hotels. They've got about 1,500 evacuees in those as well. Those COVID protocols also being followed by firefighters, in their base camps where they didn't have to do that before. So he says it's all about replicating what we're doing in our normal life as well as with the firefighters and with the cases. He says cases are trending down and he'd like to keep it that way. Raj and Janelle?
Okay, Okay, Jessica, thank you. Well, as we kick off week number 2 of this unhealthy air quality, what can we do to make things better, even a little better here? Anything to keep that smoke out of our house. Our business and tech reporter Scott Budman takes a look at what might work.
The shelves at this San Francisco Target are nearly bare. They used to hold air purifiers and air conditioning units, but in stores and online, Bay Area residents have been snatching them up.
I have one at home, and then when I stay with my boyfriend, he just actually got an air purifier. So,
And do they help?
I would say so. Yeah, they've really helped the air quality inside the house.
Some online outlets say they too are now sold out, or at least unable to ship products. Bad news for those trying to keep what's out here from getting inside their homes.
My face is a little more irritated, like my eyes get red and itchy sometimes.
The smoke is not good, especially with myself, and I have allergies. So
all of this is understandable. This is a real stressor to the lungs.
Doctors say air purifiers can help, but they're not worth leaving your house for. So are damp towels around unsealed windows or doors. They say wearing a mask inside is okay too.
If you smell smoke, certainly in your house, that's a reason to wear that mask.
Dr. Daly went on to say that some of the bad air particles are likely to get into your home no matter what precautions you take. So he says it's best to avoid strenuous exercise, even indoors, over at least the next couple of days. In San Francisco, Scott Budman, NBC, Bay Area News.
Well, a little bit relief. Scott is in San Francisco. We've got some fog moving in to help clear some of the air out. Where else can we see some relief, Jeff?
Well, I think right near the bay as we head through tonight and tomorrow, and also for some of the inland areas. So a little bit of good news on that air quality. I wanted to start off and show you the Storm Ranger scan. It's our mobile Doppler radar. And after some thunderstorms getting real close to the Bay Area last night, early this morning, you can see it's dry across Northern California. But I do want to draw your attention to this. Overnight, I am following the chance of some isolated thunderstorms that could develop just north of us. Thunderstorms can be very rogue, so we will have our eyes glued on this radar if anything gets close to the Bay Area. Now, we just mentioned the fog moving in at the coastline. That's what you're seeing on this live sky camera view. That is not smoke, that is fog. We even had some blue sky in San Francisco today, but then there you go. There's all that smoke moving into the Central Valley right now. So what does this mean for us tonight? Much improved air quality. We just got the latest updates, and you can see near the coastline, also the bay, were now considered to be moderate. Even some huge improvements back to Concord and Hayward, reading 112. It's still considered spare the air, unhealthy air, but it is a big drop for us. Most unhealthy air right now is in San Jose, also in Livermore, from our extremely large fire down there across the higher elevations in the South Bay. Fire forecast on the fire lines. I do expect some cooler temperatures tomorrow. There's a lot on this map, but find the fire that's close to you and you can see the conditions. Tomorrow, we're dropping it down to 90 in the North Bay, gusts of only 20 miles per hour. For the South Bay, 85 degrees and wind gusts of 20, so that will help firefighters. And over to the Santa Cruz Mountains, 78 and wind gusts of only 20. So right now, the weather is cooperating as best as it can in August. We'll talk more about some of that thunderstorm activity we might see off to the north and what our chances are. I'll have another look at that 7-day forecast coming up in about 25 minutes.
That is critical for us. We have more updates just after this break. Stay with us.
Yep.
All this month, NBC Bay Area and Telemundo 48 are teaming up to clear the shelters and help animals find a forever home. Tonight, a look at how shelters have had to innovate during this pandemic, just like so many of us. Here's NBC Bay Area's Ian Cole.
In the pandemic, when many are staying home, there are still many animals waiting to join a family. In 2020, like so many of us, Humane Society Silicon Valley has had to adapt. They've pivoted from in-person adoptions to Zoom appointments.
And it's been a cool way to get to know our clients in a whole new way. We're getting tours of people's houses. We're able to make really customized recommendations.
An adoptions advisor helps figure out which dogs and cats might make a good fit.
Yeah, he's very treat motivated.
Then they walk you through the process and you meet the pet virtually.
It is a silver lining. I think the time that we're spending with people, because adoptions are by appointment, we have that full hour and 20 minutes to spend with that person.
This couple from Sunnyvale enjoyed it as well as they look for a dog, since both will work from home until next year.
We live in a small mid-sized apartment, so we're looking for a small to medium dog.
So it would be a great time to actually spend time with a dog and have the time to train it.
For Clear the Shelters, HSSV is also doing a kitten match program where you can give them a preference for what you like, or they can pick for you for a discount.
Through the end of the month, if people want to be completely surprised and they're open to any age, gender, or color preference, they can pick that option. It's a $20 adoption fee, and our staff will pick a really fun kitten for them to take home.
Luckily, adoptions are up this year as people staying home look for a companion. The number of people willing to foster an animal is also up, but there is still a need.
It's the perfect time to bring a puppy into your home, a cat, a kitten. You have the time to get them acclimated.
And if you're ready and willing, there are dozens of animals waiting for you. In Milpitas, Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
Thank you, Ian. They're all so cute. Well, this year, Clear the Shelters will be a virtual effort because of the pandemic, but you're still encouraged to adopt, and you can do it virtually, as you just saw, and donate to shelters as well for the entire month of August. You can find a list of participating shelters by going to NBCBayArea.com. We will have special coverage of our Clear the Shelters effort this Saturday.
Up next at 6:30, we go back to our fire coverage. We talk to the son of a woman who died in the fire in Napa County. His urgent plea for people in the path of flames. Right now at 6:30, the threat of lightning has passed, at least for now, but the danger is far from over. These fires continue to spread, leaving thousands of people in limbo. The 3 complex fires continue to burn across the Bay Area. Now, Janelle, about 15 minutes ago, we got that new information from the fire in San Mateo and Santa Cruz counties, and it is very good news.
Yeah, that's the CZU fire. CAL FIRE says there was a lot of progress today. They've also minimized the threat to many of the perimeter cities along the peninsula like Portola Valley and Palo Alto Hills. Containment now at 13%, but this fire has killed 1 person. Then there's the SCU fire burning across Santa Clara County, Alameda County, and Contra Costa County. It spans 347,000 acres. It's 10% contained. This fire is now the 3rd largest fire in California history.
In the North Bay, the LNU fires raging in Sonoma, Napa, and Solano counties. Flames have scorched 350,000 acres. It is 22% contained. 5 people have died in that fire, which has become the 2nd largest in California history.
Yeah, 5 people killed in that fire, 3 in Napa County, 2 in Solano County. Tonight, the family of the Napa County victims are urging others to listen to evacuation warnings and follow them. NBC Bay Area's Jody Hernandez talked with a family member in the burn zone where relatives are grieving.
She was one of the most caring people that I've ever met.
Robert McNeil is dealing with the loss of his mother. He says his best friend. 70-year-old Mary Hintmeyer died last week along with her boyfriend Leo McDermott and Leo's son Tom McDermott when the LNU Lightning Complex fire swept through their Napa County home.
They called the planes off, and the next thing you know, the thing re-erupted and it went through that whole canyon, and nobody had a chance.
McNeil says his mother drove out to the roadblock but came back for her boyfriend, who was in a wheelchair. She texted a photo of the fire and said they might have to go into the root cellar. Then the text messages stopped. Mary, Leo, and Tom did seek refuge in what they called their root cellar, basically a makeshift fire shelter built in the side of a hill. This is where searchers found their remains.
How scared she was. I mean, her biggest fear was actually burning, and she didn't even want to be cremated. And that's pretty much the way things ended up.
McNeil wants others to understand the importance of heeding evacuation warnings and not to be fooled into thinking you can survive.
Don't worry about your stuff. Your family's going to have to deal with the aftermath of you not getting out, and that's way worse than losing your property.
Down the road, the fire destroyed portions of Lake Berryessa's Markley Cove Marina and boat launch. But the owner says his loss pales in comparison to what his neighbors are dealing with.
We will get by, and we will be okay. I worry about the folks further up this road that have lost everything.
In Napa County, Jody Hernandez, NBC Bay Area News.
Across the Bay Area, more than 100,000 people are under evacuation orders. Thousands more are under evacuation warnings. Santa Cruz County, by far, has the most people out of their homes at about 65,000 people evacuated. Alameda County, about 20,000 evacuees. Napa County has about 13,000. Sonoma County evacuations have gone down to about 12,000. And Santa Clara and San Mateo counties with about 1,600 people combined. Well, not just people, animals and livestock are also on the move. About 24 horses are safely stabled at the Cow Palace this evening. The horses normally live at the Sierra West Equestrian on Skyline Boulevard in Woodside. The owner of the property says he's always had an evacuation plan, and yesterday, keeping an eye on the CZU fire, he decided it was go time. The San Mateo County Large Animal Evacuation Group, along with some of the horses' owners, were able to safely move 25 of these horses to Daly City.
I have to say that the animals are very calm right here, and I think part of that is the professionalism of the people around them. As I said, horses reflect our feelings, so when people are stable and not panicking, the horses are stable and not panicking.
Great to have the Cow Palace put to use again. Remember, it was the home of the Warriors and the Sharks back in the day. Because they are herd animals, it also helps when the horses can stay with horses they already know. The Cow Palace has been taking in livestock since Friday. You can head to our website for complete coverage. We've got a lot of information here, NBCBayArea.com, for all the information, all the various fires and the evacuations. That includes helpful maps detailing the evacuations. You can also check out the perimeter of each one of these complex fires.
One of the Bay Area's most high-profile murder trials may be heading back to a courtroom. The state Supreme Court today overturned the death penalty sentence of Scott Peterson. He's the Modesto man convicted of murdering his wife Lacey and their unborn son Connor on Christmas Eve 2002. Today, the court ruled the trial judge wrongly excluded jurors who were opposed to the death penalty. Legal analysts say that means Peterson is entitled to a new death penalty hearing.
The court said the judge does not have discretion. He cannot exclude people just because they have reservations about the death penalty.
In its decision, the court upheld Peterson's guilty verdict, meaning his lawyers must now decide whether to request a new penalty hearing or accept a sentence of life without parole.
Up next, back to the fire coverage, and not just fires, the smoke, when it might be getting better, and how bad is it out there in terms of the unhealthiness. Stay with us.
A unique look at the front lines of a firefight. These are Cal Fire crews conducting fire operations on Cloverdale Road in San Mateo County. This is the Scu Fire. That means they're setting fires on purpose. The flames basically burn up the fuel, helping to stop forward progress of the main part of the fire. Again, this is pictures from the CZU Lightning Complex fire.
6 straight days of poor air quality, and we may have several more. Let's bring in Chris Kimura now to tell us just a comparison of what we're breathing out there. And I don't think this is going to be a good conversation.
The scientists,
no offense, Chris.
Well, no, take it. One of the terms that scientists use for managing and measuring air pollution is micrograms per cubic meter. We converted that to cigarettes because we figured that's easier to take in than micrograms per cubic meter. All right, and so here's what we found in places like the Santa Cruz Mountains today. Breathing in the air all day long might be equivalent to about 20 cigarettes. It's a full pack. All right, so how did we come up with, say, 9 in Vallejo, 6 in Livermore? Well, we started off by looking at this formula that the Berkeley Earth folks created. Berkeley Earth is a nonprofit science organization. The researchers there calculated a rule of thumb that lets us essentially translate the effects into 1 cigarette per day. So what we did was we took that, cross-referenced it with the EPA's map of ongoing pollution concerns, and you can see the U.S. is underneath that logo there, but you can see California is just a mess. Those dark colors indicate lousy air. So when we did that conversion, then we ended up with the map where you can see that we have the 20 cigarettes, a full pack essentially in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Other places, 4 in Walnut Creek, 8 up in Fairfield, 9 in Vallejo. Notice underneath the colors of the base map, there's a bit of a correlation here. The darker the colors, well, yeah, the higher the numbers, because the darker the colors are where the lousier air is and the more cigarettes you've smoked. But even in the maps, yellow region. So where you see yellow on the map, it's still 1.5 cigarettes in San Jose, or up in Berkeley, same deal. The underlying map in Berkeley is yellow, and yet it is 1.5 cigarettes. And forgive me for the computer, it doesn't want to play around with me today. But the bottom line here is, if you can stay inside, please do. If you can, because that air is just not healthy for you guys at all. We want to smoke 0 cigarettes, I believe, right?
You got a yes from me.
For sure. It's very bad for our lungs. Well, the air quality a little bit better in San Francisco and along the coast. Hopefully we'll see some more improvement. Here's Jeff Ranieri.
Yes, it's just starting to turn for us right now. I'm going to show you a real dramatic image when we come back of what's happening to help to clear out this air, at least for now, for a few parts of the Bay Area in just a few minutes.
Kimberly Guilfoyle. The RNC has kicked off. This is a live look at the Republican National Convention. Right now, a live look at Kimberly Guilfoyle, the former First Lady, ex-wife of former Mayor Gavin Newsom. She is now on the podium. The Republicans will hope to energize the base and sway undecided voters as their convention kicks off this week. In fact, it started earlier today with President Trump in North Carolina, as more than 300 delegates formally nominated him for a second term. Now, unlike the Democrats' virtual convention, live audiences will be involved during the RNC. The convention moves to Washington, D.C. tonight. Among the notable speakers, we just saw Kimberly Guilfoyle, Donald Trump Jr., and Nikki Haley. Today, the president hit on many of his familiar themes.
I just want to thank everybody for this incredible support. Be very, very careful. This is going to be, and I really believe this is the most important election in the history of our country.
Yeah, it is.
Don't let them take it away from you.
Also today, Joe Biden picked up endorsements from more than 24 former Republican members of Congress, including former Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. Let's bring in our political analyst, Larry Gersten. Larry, we just heard the president say this is the most important election in the history of this country. The Democrats had a similar theme last week.
Yeah, it's amazing how you look at these sides. They're almost mirror images. They're blaming each other in many cases for the same things, only it's the other side's fault. Clearly, one thing is true. This is a consequential election. We say that every 4 years, Raj, but this one seems to be pretty important.
Let's pinpoint here. Who are the Republicans going after? I'm going to watch tonight, which I will right after this newscast. Who will I see that they're really targeting?
First of all, they're going to solidify the base. That goes without saying. Secondly, they're going to go after independents. And thirdly, they're going to go after those Democrats who either didn't vote or voted for themselves, for Republicans last time. They want to keep them. They want to make sure they come back. That's a tough one, particularly because this time around, the negatives on President Trump are much greater than the negatives are on Joe Biden. So they have a tough hill to climb there.
What roles will some prominent Californians be playing in this convention, which is beginning tonight?
It's interesting. Californians will not be prominent other than Kevin McCarthy, of course, who is the leader of the Republican minority in the House. Californians as a whole will play a big role. Why? Because Trump's going to cite this state over and over again for all the things we've done wrong. He's going to talk about things like how we don't rake leaves when it comes to wild forest fires. He's going to talk about mailed-in ballots and how this state is giving them out to everybody. He's going to also mention how we're really the home of crazed socialists. And so California will be really a target for him over and over again, much more than any individual.
Last question. We'll make it relatively quick here. Do you believe some of the polling that shows that Biden is ahead?
The polling has been consistent enough that it looks like he's about 8 to 10 points ahead. But you know what, Raj? 8 to 10 points with 70 days to go doesn't mean very much.
That could dwindle really quick. Okay, Larry, we will speak with you tomorrow as we recap what happened tonight. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, let's get a check of our forecast and our air quality. Jeff Ranieri, you kind of teased something that you're going to show us, a map about our air quality.
Yes, super dramatic picture for us right now. You know, over the past 2 to 3 hours, we've seen the fog move in so aggressively that it's helping to stir out of the smoke near the coast, also the bay, even for parts of Contra Costa County right now. So you can see this split screen I've put together, and the dramatic shot is in San Francisco. Look on the left-hand side of your screen. That is not smoke. That is some very thick fog moving in, even a little bit of drizzle as well. So this is really helping to flush out the smoke we had in San Francisco. And while Livermore still has some thick smoke, it's actually improving a little bit. I know it's hard to tell from that view, but things are getting a little bit better right now from the foggy breeze that is starting to return. So that's part one of things I wanted to show you. Let's move on to the next thing. We just were narrowly missed by some thunderstorms earlier this morning. Radar's quiet right now, but I do want to draw your attention to something I'm following tonight, and that is going to be some thunderstorms just to the north of the Bay Area. Thunderstorms are very rogue. They can sometimes move a little bit closer than anticipated, so we've got our eyes glued to the radar for that. Let me give you a better picture of what it would look like at 5 o'clock in the morning. Here you can see just outside of Guerneville and areas to the north, we'd have some rainfall developing, maybe some thunderstorms around 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd see that chance hold steady through 7 a.m. Then by tomorrow afternoon, notice the best chances of thunderstorms would be over the Sierra. So we still have some unstable air that's moving across Northern California. 3 main fire zones, North Bay, South Bay, also Santa Cruz Mountains. Main point here is that we're not going to see too much wind tomorrow, and temperatures are cooling off a bit. We have 90 degrees here for the fire in the North Bay. Down to the South Bay, we're also dropping temperatures to 86, and that's due to the fog that's developing and wind gusts of 20 miles per hour. Over to the Santa Cruz Mountains, winds, the lack of wind will also help firefighters. Gusts of 20 and temperatures dropping down to 78 degrees. So good news, as we've heard from Cal Fire, and as you can see on my forecast here, that will help in the firefighting effort. Tomorrow's forecast, upper 80s to about 90 inland. Got you at 88 in Concord, 90 Livermore, San Jose 85, and then we have cool 60s from that foggy breeze and half Half Moon Bay to San Francisco. So the air quality forecast tomorrow does improve. Look, it's still going to be unhealthy at times, but overall things are getting a little bit better from that wind, that ocean breeze that's helping to clear it out just a little bit. San Francisco, 60s next several days, a 40% chance of dry lightning tomorrow, 35% chance Wednesday, 10% chance on Thursday. I wanted to put those chances on there to let you know that I'm still following the unstable air, and if anything increases on that, you can bet I will be here to let you know about that. The other thing I wanted to point out real fast is into even next week, we could still remain in this on-again, off-again humid pattern that may aid in some thunderstorm development. So this is an ongoing pattern we'll be following potentially into next week's forecast.
As we've learned this whole year, we're just going to take it day by day, Jeff. Thank you.
You got it.
Up next, we're getting our first look at what NFL games could look like when fans are allowed, if fans are allowed. And will the 49ers or Raiders be allowing fans for their games this season? Stay with us.